Is Miss Lee, and this is our 6th lesson for indices and surds. So today we are going to learn how to solve equations that has surds. Okay, so if you look at example 11, question A, okay, we want to solve, meaning we want to get x, but x is actually stuck in the square root. So in order for us to get x, okay, the idea here is to square both sides so that we can get rid of the square root. So if I were to square both sides, okay, if I were to square both sides, I'm going to get 2x minus 3 equal to 25. So if I add 3 on both sides, 2x will be equal to 28, and x will be equal to 14. Okay, now it is important that you check your answer, okay, by substituting back your answer into the question. So this is how we check, okay. If we were to sub x equal to 14 back into the question, my left hand side, okay, which is the square root, 2 times 14 minus 3, okay, replacing x with 14, I'm going to get square root 28 minus 3, which is 25, and hence it is 5, and it is indeed equal to the right hand side. So in this case, I can confirm that x equal to 14 is my answer. Okay. Now, some things to note when you check. Okay. Now, besides the fact that your left hand side has to be equal to your right hand side after your substitution, okay, you also have to check that your solution doesn't give a imaginary number. So if you sub your answer x, okay, back into the question, make sure that, okay, within the square root you should have a 0 or a positive, okay, or 0 number inside the square root, okay, to be real, okay, because if it's negative, then it is not a real solution. Okay. Now, another thing to check is what we have mentioned on page 5, okay, that if the question started with a positive square root, okay, whatever it is, okay, if the question started off with a positive square root with x inside the square root to be solved, okay, the other side should be equal to a positive number. Okay, so if the question started with a negative square root, okay, the other side should be a negative number. Okay. Now, let's look at the next question. Now, for the next question again, I want to find x, but once again, x is inside the square root, okay, and to make things complicated, there is a negative sign here, okay, but to solve this easily, actually the trick is to bring one of the square root to the other side of the equation. Okay, so I can then square root both sides, okay, and I will get 8 minus x equal to x minus 2. Okay, if I add both sides by 2, I will get 10. If I add both sides by x, I will get no x here and then 2x. Okay? So x is equal to 5. Okay, so please check if you are correct, okay, by using the substitution method back into the question. Okay, now let's look at the next question. Now in this case, again, I want x, okay, but I have things on both sides, okay, so I'm going to square both sides again. But how do I square this? Okay, now you can use indices law, okay, and it will be 2 square times square root minus 1 minus x whole thing square equal to 3. Okay, so you can see it this way, or you can see it as 2 times square root 1 minus x, and this whole thing, because it is square, there is 2 copies of it, right? Okay, there is 2 copies of it, so it will get you to the same place. Okay, since I have 2 times 2, it is 4. Since I have square root 1 minus x times square root 1 minus x, I will get just 1 minus x. Okay? So if I were to simplify, x will be equal to 1/4. Okay, so please check if it is correct. Now for the next question, okay, now we have a plus on this side, okay, and we have so many square roots. So what should we do first? Now, before I move on, okay, please take note of an idea, okay, before you attempt the question. If I have 1 plus 2, okay, I can say that it is equal to 3, correct? Now, if 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, can I say that 1 square plus 2 square is equal to 3 square? Is it correct? So let's see. 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4. However, 3 square is 9. Okay, so I can see that they are not equal and they don't make sense. So you cannot square each term in this way. Okay, it's not correct. So when we talk about squaring both sides, what we mean is literally squaring both sides. Okay, so if you square both sides in this way, then yes, this is correct because it still makes sense. 3 square this side is 9, and 3 square this side is also 9. Okay, so now let's come back to this question. Can I square? Okay, can I do this? If I can, take a look at this again. Okay, it is not correct to basically just add squares suddenly to each term. So this is not correct. So what should be the correct way? Okay, so remember, the correct way is to square both sides. Again, okay? And when we say square both sides, we really mean square both sides, okay? In this way. Now, it looks complicated, but it can be done. Okay, this first term will just be our a, and this next term will be b. So I have a plus b squared. And we have learned that it is just a squared plus 2ab okay, plus b squared on this side, and the other side will be square root 3 squared, which is just 3. Okay, so if I continue to simplify, I will get 4 1 minus x plus 4 square root 1 minus x, x minus 3 plus x minus 3 equal to 3. Okay, so if I were to continue to simplify a little bit more, okay, I would have gotten 1 minus 3x plus 4 square root, okay, 1 minus x, x minus 3 equal to 3. Notice that even after squaring both sides once, we still end up with a square root, okay? So this is like, the obstacle is still not solved, right? Okay, so what should we do next? In order for us to remove the last square root that we have caused because we had to square both sides in the first place. Okay, so what we can do is, we can, okay, shift everything else that is not the square root to the other side of the equation, and I will have gotten 4 square root 1 minus x, x minus 3 equal to 2 plus 3x. Okay, so now I'm ready to do a second round of squaring both sides in order to remove my last set with fraction, with algebra, okay, that to be solved. So if I square both sides again, 4 squared is 16, and then I basically removed the square root. Okay, and over here I will have 4 plus 12x plus 9x squared. Okay, so the next thing is to simplify the bracket. And see that we are heading towards solving a quadratic equation. Okay, so if I were to simplify this further, I'm going to get 25x squared minus 52x plus 52 equal 0. Okay, can you try to see whether you get this? Okay, now finally, we are ready to solve this quadratic equation to find our x. Okay, because the numbers are quite big, so I'm just going to use the formula to find x. Okay, so minus b, okay, plus minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so do you notice anything about this? Okay, can you try this on the calculator? Is it possible to get a real solution? Okay, so if not, we will say that there is no real solution if I were to evaluate this. Okay, because notice that inside the square root, I have a negative number. So this entire fraction cannot be evaluated. Okay, so now we have come to the end of this section on solving equations with surd. Okay, now we'll continue to solve equations with surd, but with another technique. Okay, so this one will continue next lesson. Thank you.